When I came to the Shrine and we began to look at the types of programs and services being offered at the Shrine, we looked first at what was going on, what was being done currently, and one of the stronger programs was the Building Bridges to Peace program, which had been in existence for some time, and that program specifically reaches out to students to work with them around issues of how to be peacemakers in their own particular environment, in their school, in their family, in their community, how to deal with issues like bullying, how to deal with conflict resolution. So we looked at that and we thought, given, our unique position regarding the events of 9/11 and the Tower of Remembrance that had been constructed here a year after that event, we began to think about how to tie those things together and then expand it in a way that would really offer opportunities for education and spiritual experiences around becoming a peacemaker, not just for students at this point, but also for adults. And so as we look to establish our mission plan for the Shrine, we look at 4 pillars of service and decided that a major pillar really should be works around peace and justice.
It really has evolved to broaden its mission to try to reach other people. So while we were working initially with middle school kids, it then migrated to high schoolers, bringing them in to do some team building and so forth, which are all aspects of really the peacemaking process. How do we as groups of people come together and be effective?
And the theme of the day is living with integrity, being a catalyst or a leader for peace, resolving conflicts in nonviolent ways. Just to get the day started in terms of the reality, this is a reality retreat. This is a reality of things that can be done. This is not just something to listen to and then go home and say, boy, that was a nice day. We want you to go home and think about what you heard today, what you acted upon today, the power of one person. Think about that. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever listen to anybody say, I can't do it. You can do it. Power of one happens all the time. But we got to start off the day with, what does peace mean to me? And we're asking you the question, a conversation about peace and what it looks like, what it feels like, and what it sounds like. And we're going to ask you to go back in groups of 5. I want you to either draw what peace looks like, feels like, or do a skit, or do a poem, or just do a narrative.
I think that the invitation of the Peace Center is to both educate, sensitize, help us to recognize what role our faith plays in that, and what role we as individuals can play in that in our everyday life. I think in peacemaking, it's also an invitation. How can we discover invitations to be peacemakers in the everydayness of our life? And what are the skills we need to not be fatigued, but to really address this and kind of make a difference?
Peace to us, peace to you, peace to me. We all have different definitions of peace, but to us, peace is love.
When we all show peace, the world give it back to us. It's a reflection of one and another of peace.
Peace makes me feel free like the wind. Peace motivates me to pursue my dreams and to help others.
Now we talked about peace. Give me one experience or something that stops you from being peaceful.
It's hard to maintain peacefulness when you kind of lose sight of like your regular self, and that usually comes out of pettiness. Like some people do things that's greedy, and they try to really go for your heart. It's hard to stay peaceful.
The rich are getting richer, but the poor are getting poorer. So what we need to do is be peaceful and think about the poor before the people that already have what they need.
What stops me from being peaceful is insecurities. And it's not that I'm not insecure because I'm comfortable with myself. I know there's people better than me, worse than me. People got it better and people have it worse. But what I'm insecure about is my fellow peers in this world because they're not comfortable with themselves, and that makes me lose my peace. And if people all accepted themselves for themselves, then what could one make fun of each other about?
These are young folks who live in an urban area, who are confronted with a different variety of levels of violence almost on a daily basis. And I was struck by their youthfulness their age and their capacity, their insights into how they can be peacemakers concretely in that situation or in their school situation, in their neighborhood situation, and a great deal of leadership and hope in them, of their realization of that and their willingness to step out and to be kind of prophetic in that, in the situations that they find themselves in.
We act justly not because we are intellectually convinced, but because we are passionately moved. Compassion moves the will to justice. So what do you guys think that means?
Well, for starters, you gotta use words of encouragement, because if people need to be motivated, they're not just gonna sit there and take, okay, yeah, you can do it. See, Martin Luther King, he didn't just go around saying, oh, you can do it. He went personally to the president himself and demanded that we have a vote. And the second thing is, after you give them words of encouragement, you gotta put your thoughts into actions, because you don't put your thoughts into actions, they're pointless. You can think whatever you want, but it's your actions that define the outcome.
Do you think God wants us to be angry?
I think he wants us to utilize it.
You think he wants us to use anger? Do you think there's some things God wants us to be angry about? So tell me, what are some of the things in your community, in your life, that you feel like you should be angry about and other people should get angry about too?
Injustice.
Poverty.
Racism. Nick, why don't you get involved?
Because people don't care.
Why don't you? Well, do you care?
I care, but people have these ideas that certain people's opinions matter more than others, so they wouldn't give me or someone else the time of day.
Young people especially, they see the peacemaking failure around the world, and any little thing that we can do with the groups of students we have to give them a look at peacemaking and its value, and also skills and tools to handle peacemaking in their lives.
If you don't have hope, right? If you don't have hope that things can change, right? What's going to happen? You're going to get scared. What's going to happen if you don't have hope?
I said, if you don't have hope that things will change, your faith will diminish, which will cause fear to surface once again, and it will cause you to feel angry and have anger, not only in your heart, but for that certain situation. I think it all starts with the hope. I think the hope is, I think, the catalyst for all emotions, because the hope is what sets everything in motion, because your hope determines how strong your faith is, and your faith will help you overcome your fears. And once you overcome your fears, you won't have anger. You won't have negative anger, but you'll have a positive anger that will cause you to change.
If you have outrage or fear, you're going to want to fight back. You're going to want to, try to partake and get involved in whatever that you feel is, making you outraged or you have fear over. Fear is the best motivator. That's what somebody said. So if you give out hope to people from your outrage, then they will get the faith. So it all comes back into a circle. So basically, that's all. They're all connected in that sort of way.
We have a strong mandate as part of our faith that we can't simply pick and choose not to be peacemakers. So we have a strong mandate from our faith to really try to be, to emulate Christ, to emulate the peacemakers throughout history that have been important to the Catholic tradition. I think it's important that we try to explain to people that our faith really is a bit of a seamless garment, in the sense that we have our devotional side and we have our spiritual practices, but we also have this call to be in the world. And so I think it really is extremely important to the foundation and fabric of who we are as people of faith at the Shrine.
I think as a Catholic peacemaker too, you really can't separate those two things. That, if you want peace, you need to work for justice.
With respect to painting the icon, the story behind that is 9/11 occurred. And like everyone, I was just so wrapped up with the whole issue of terror. And as weeks went on, I thought, You know, the issue in the world is not just terror, it's violence. It's the much broader issue because it touches everyone's lives in one way or another. And one morning, about 3 weeks or so after 9/11, I woke up and the image of that painting was in my head. And I went to my desk and sketched that out, and that was the genesis of it, was the idea of using the triptych, the three-part, to kind of tell a narrative. And what I say to groups when we talk about the icon is that that center panel, which has the names of places of violence and all the kinds of violence that humanity imposes on itself, that's a current-day crucifixion. Those are the people who are dying as Christ died. That was their crucifixion, that was their test. So it really